TechBrits is available on all good handhelds, and we're going to be talking about some of those today. I'm Rindles.
And I'm George Lim.
So we can't be talking about handhelds without bringing up the Steam Deck. That is the latest, greatest, in some people's opinions, handheld. But there are some compromises with it. Mainly the battery life is not great. Any sort of high-end games, you can be running for the charger within about an hour or so. So it's not ideal really for a handheld.
Yeah, I mean, Linus Tech Tips even broke his apart and just to attach a battery to it so that you could play it a bit longer.
Do you know it fits pretty well in this spot?
A battery.
But it also didn't have the best of displays, so it was only a 720p resolution display, and it wasn't OLED, which, thanks to the Switch, we've got a little bit used to now with our gaming handhelds. So that was a little bit of a disappointment. There's also the matte screen on the highest end one, which is supposed to improve the readability outside in direct sunlight. It works for doing that, but it makes it just look like a little bit more like a kind of Switch, just in terms of the sort of
Clarity.
graphics, the clarity. It really affects that. So what's next? Well, there's the Asus ROG Ally, which is supposed to be announced on May 11th and will only be $50 more than the Steam Deck. You're still not getting an OLED screen, so
Some people can live without.
yeah, some people can. I do really like how much the colours pop on an OLED screen, and you also get sort of battery improvements as well. It's going to run a proper version of Windows, so you have access to Game Pass, which is obviously a big thing,
That's huge.
straight out. And you can, if you want, also run all sort of Windows apps as well. Whereas it's all a little bit sort of hacky on the Steam Deck side of things.
I mean, you've got to find that right blend between running Windows and running a console that works. Like, the Switch is really good because it doesn't try and do anything fancy. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a games console that plays games via cartridge or download. Like that's it, and they have their one UI. I think with the Steam Deck, they tried to promise too much by going, yes, you can play anything you want, but if you want to play the Windows stuff that we don't support, then you're going to need to kind of
Get a little bit tinkering.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is all good, and I appreciate what they're doing. It's a good sort of halfway house that they're doing between the purely sort of game-orientated OS like Nintendo's done and sort of the open, really designed for a desktop that Windows is. That with SteamOS, they've kind of got that nice sort of middle ground.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate what they're doing. I just wish that, they held back a little bit longer just to kind of bump those specs up a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, the main concern with the ROG Ally is going to be the battery life again, because of
Running Windows is not going to be...
Running Windows, which is a hefty, operating system by itself. Microsoft is supposed to be designing one specifically for gaming handhelds now.
Oh, wow, okay.
Which, should be a little bit more optimized for that form factor.
Honestly, it reminds me of there's a really old Dell that was a handheld that ran Windows. And that's where I'm worried that if it's running a full version of Windows, is this then tinkering into that sort of weird sort of handheld, almost tablet realm, rather than it being a games console, which is probably what it's trying to target.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, this is only $50 more expensive than the highest end Steam Deck at the moment. So it's still a very good sort of price to performance.
It's a big promise, and I think we'll find out more on May 11th, but it's a big promise as to what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, definitely. A bit further out, nothing's officially announced yet, but we can assume that a successor to the Switch is coming. And it's looking very, very promising. We never talk about power really with Nintendo, but it looks like this is going to use a pretty powerful chip that will be capable of ray tracing. And Nintendo are good at getting a decent amount of battery life out of their handhelds as well. I mean, they've had plenty of experience with it. So I've got high hopes for that device.
It's interesting with the Switch 2, or whatever we're calling it, because Nintendo have never... They've obviously released iterative versions. The OLED is kind of one of those iterative versions. You had the DS, the 3DS, which were technically different, but they were kind of the same. I don't think they'll call it the Switch 2, but I'm curious what they'll do in terms of naming and what they're going to actually try and push this as. But it's interesting to me that they're doing this after the new Zelda game, which I would have thought would be a great sort of jumping off point for a second console.
I think I'm probably on record saying that I expected that to be the case.
Yeah.
I mean, even like Digital Foundry, who are the sort of gurus when it comes to sort of analysing graphics and capabilities, certainly a lot more knowledgeable that side of things than I am. But they analysed the early footage of Tears of the Kingdom, and they said that this wouldn't actually even be capable on the current Switch hardware. Nintendo have clearly done some wizardry to do that. We'll have to wait and see whether the performance actually does hold up after it releases. I've got that pre-ordered for release.
Especially after the Pokemon debacle.
Exactly. But I mean, that is the thing, is Nintendo, however you look at it, Nintendo's hardware is starting to age now. I mean, this is a very mobile chipset and quite an old one at that now.
Yeah, 5-6 years old, I think, something like that. No, don't know the exact dates,
but I mean, local hardware is becoming a little bit, obsolete with cloud gaming.
I mean, the Logitech G Cloud, for example, it's a $299, so immediately much cheaper than anything else we've mentioned today. But it's only cloud. But it does get that Game Pass stuff, because obviously Game Pass comes with cloud. It has GeForce Now, so you get a lot of your PC gaming things, but you're then limited to where you can do it.
That's it, yeah. I mean, 5G, when it's becoming sort of more widely available, kind of changes the sort of thing a little bit, that you can start considering these devices a little bit more. You're still not going to be able to play them with any good sort of performance on a plane or anything like that, when you'd be relying on potentially the Wi-Fi if it has it, and there being low enough latency to make it a halfway decent sort of experience.
I cloud game most of the time at home, but that's the thing, at home or when I've got decent Wi-Fi. I play local games when I'm on a train or a bus. I'm normally on my phone.
Well, let us know your thoughts on the handheld gaming consoles and, of course, of cloud gaming as well. Pop those in the comments, and we will see you next time.